Hi, Tamika.
Good evening, Grayson.
Hi, Grace Ann. How are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm here. I'm still on the road driving,
Okay.
but I'm here.
Okay, good.
All right, let me put this code in now. God.
So if you click on those dots next to Outlook on the left of Outlook,
Okay.
and then click on Microsoft Word, there should be an option to download it. Trying to figure out where it is. New blank document, general.
See, upload. The new document saved to.
Go back to it
Okay.
and click just those dots next to Word.
Okay.
Open a new tab, learn more. Let's learn more. No, go back. Go to all apps below Sway. Oh, my students have done this. They seem to know how to do this, but we already have Word on our computers. I'm trying to figure out.
Good
Not
evening,
upload.
everyone.
Hi, how are you, Rachel?
I'm fine.
We're trying to figure out how to download the Microsoft Word from OneDrive.
You want me to try open it in a new tab?
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, open it in a
No,
new
it
tab.
just opens it here. Does it allow you to download anything? The privacy.
So close.
Yeah, I thought there was a way to download the app.
So I guess I can come here and just type.
But that's going to be pretty much the same
Yeah.
as what you've been doing. What is under settings next to your name, TT? No, not it. Let me try to find this out for you,
Okay.
how to do it. I'll put it on my list.
Okay. So close out.
Yeah, yeah.
So Doc, let me ask you a question again. Is it okay for you if we turn off our camera and have our picture up?
Yeah, that's fine. I had to turn it off right now because my Wi-Fi gave me notice that it's unstable,
Okay.
so I
No
had to turn it
problem.
off.
I'm just checking because apparently some of the professors don't like that and they might report it to the university. But if you're fine with it,
Yeah, that's
was-
fine as long as you're paying attention because you'll get the most out of it if you're paying attention, even with your screen off.
all
Because
right.
I know in meetings now we make faces and whatnot at people with our camera off. I'm gonna have to remember not to do that when I go in person because you forget. You get into this habit and then you're on mute, so you make all these comments to yourself.
And Doc, I don't know if one of the classes, you'd be kind enough to go over like some method of data analysis. How do we analyze this data after we collect it?
Yeah, we're actually going to start a little bit of that tonight.
Okay.
So we'll play with some of the survey data, the data that you've already entered.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How are you, Alicia? Are you all coming along okay with your journal article critique?
I cannot say yes. I'll be working on it.
I couldn't hear who that was.
No.
It was Alisa. She said she's
Oh.
working on it.
She's working on it. Okay.
When is it due, Doc?
No.
I'm gonna make the final one for the first article due on Sunday. This
Okay.
Sunday.
Okay. So after we make our correction, I'm not speaking for the class. I'm just asking for those who you have responded to.
Mhm.
After we make our corrections, it's okay for us to just go in Blackboard and upload. That's it,
Yes.
right?
Yep. That's all you have to do. If you want to do it sooner, if you're done making all the corrections, then feel free to do it sooner.
Okay.
I think
And
I only did a few. I still have several more to do. So Alicia, you did send me a draft. You're still doing another? I haven't reviewed your draft yet. Did you have a revision to that draft or did you want me to review the draft you sent?
and you said there were going to be 2 assignments for your course, Doc?
The two major ones, the two journal article critiques. The others we're pretty much doing in class, and whatever you don't finish, you can do at home. Like
Okay.
the little things like the Padlet, answering a few questions, or if there's a discussion board question,
Okay. But the 2 major articles are
the article
general.
critique. Yep.
Oh.
Hello,
Good
Laverne.
evening, everybody.
Good evening. How
Hello,
are
Dr.
you?
Daniel. Not bad.
Good. How are you, Tiona?
I'm okay, thanks.
Alicia, I don't know if you can hear me. I guess I'll put the question in chat or you can respond in chat. I was asking about your article critique that you already sent me. Did you want me to review that or did you have revisions and you want me to review the revisions? Okay, I see that you only did a little bit, so you're still working on it. And the ones who I reviewed, do you mind if I share your work as examples with the class?
No, Doc.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I forgot who I reviewed. I reviewed Tamika's, Nicole, and who else?
Oh, I was trying to unmute. You can share mine, Doc.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Who else did I review? Trying to remember. Was it Shelly on? Yeah, I did review Shelly on. Did I email you, Shelly on?
No, you haven't.
No, I haven't. Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that now while
Okay.
people are
And,
still joining.
good evening, everybody.
Hi. Everett, I didn't get your article yet. Did you email it to me? I hope you didn't email my student account. I have a student account too.
Oh Lord, I sent it. Yes, I sent it on the article to you.
When did you email it?
Friday night,
Friday
early
night.
Saturday morning.
Can you resend me the email? Because I haven't gotten it.
I will.
Thank you.
Doc, do you get
Have
mine?
you received mine?
Rashima. Yep, I have
Yes.
Rashima's. Who
You
was the
do?
other person? Yes. I
Thanks.
haven't reviewed it yet though. I'll get it
Have you
done
received-
tomorrow.
Have you received mine already?
Rachel, yes, I got yours.
Okay.
Rachel, if you can do me a favor and
Alright.
send it as a Word document.
Oh,
'cause I-
as a word.
Yeah.
Alright, sure. Alright, I'll be sending right now.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna do Shelly ons right now.
Dr. Daniel,
Yes,
could you just assist me by confirming if this is your email address, please?
okay, yeah, I see it now. Message received and noted, Dr. Daniel. Is that the email?
That's a response to your last. Oh, it's a student email I sent it to.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So let me forward it. Could you remind me the email address, please? Put it in chat. If you,
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
put it in the chat.
okay.
I don't check my student one that often.
No, I'm sorry. My bad.
There you go.
Doc, sorry if there's any noise in my background, but did you get mine? And
No,
did
I
you get a
did
chance to
not.
review?
I don't think I have yours.
I sent it.
Did you send it to the student one too?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one that you communicate with us on?
I B Daniel at DESU. That's the one it needs to go to.
I'm gonna have to double check.
Yeah, check in your email and then
Will
forward
do.
it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So Dr. Daniel, I've just forwarded to your
Okay,
your
I got it.
and I'm so sorry I sent it.
It's okay.
To see that.
That's what I figured must have happened. Thank you.
All right.
Let me get Shelly on's. Do I have an email from Shelly on before? You can just respond. Yeah, I do.
Mine still remains an incomplete draft. A draft. You hear that?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay.
You have till Sunday to complete it. I'll give you
Till
till
Sunday?
Sunday rather. Yeah, Sunday evening.
Okay, no problem.
And then I'll give you a grade on it. And you're still learning APA, so I'll make comments about APA in my notes to you, but I'm not going to take any points off if it's not in APA format.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome. And Shelly-on, I'm adding Nicole's draft so you can see how the first page can be formatted. So you just need to,
Okay, Doc, thank you.
you're welcome.
I just resent it, Dr. Daniel.
Rachel, I have yours. I don't have Grace Ann's.
Oh, no, I just sent it in Word.
You sent it, oh, in Word. Okay, okay, thank you.
I'm trying to resend it, Doc.
Okay, sounds good. So let me go ahead and look at my agenda. And my internet was not stable earlier, so I had to turn off my camera, but I might just briefly turn it on to say hi to everyone. How are you all doing? That I am here. This is not a recording. You'll all look great. And I'll stop the recordings on my the video at least. It looks like we have everybody attending, right? 100% attendance tonight, so that's great. Today we met with some of the faculty who are teaching this summer, the same class. So there's three or four other faculty members that are teaching different sections of this class. So we were talking about attendance and assignment submission. So I'm happy to be able to report that everyone's attending tonight from this class. I'm just gonna go and mark off today's attendance. So let me know if Shelly-on is here. Alicia,
I'm here, Doc.
thank you. Latoya, did Latoya come in? I didn't see Latoya. Does anyone know if she'll be coming later? And Rashima's here. Everett is here. Tamika's here.
Yes, Doc.
Rachel's here. Nicole is here. Dane is here. Grace Ann is here. Laverne is here. And Tiona is here.
I'm here.
Thank you. If someone
Doc,
can,
Dane is here.
yes, I got you. Thank you. I just have to transpose your name because I had Dennis Dane. So let me change that. Can someone text Latoya to find out if she's running late or what's going on? She's the only one missing for tonight. Let me share my screen now. I'm still working on trying to get all the videos from the last few classes uploaded in Blackboard. So I might create a section. I don't know whether to do it in the individual modules or I might just have a separate section on its own called like links to the class videos or something. So we did attendance, and the good news is you all are registered now. Were you able to verify in Banner and Blackboard that you have access? Rashima and Dane were the
Yes,
only
ma'am.
two. Great, very good. Dane, did you get a
In
chance?
Blackboard, I don't know about the banner part.
You don't have access to Banner?
I haven't checked,
Okay,
but I think
check
so.
both.
Yes, I will.
Okay, good. And who was it that Alicia was it who was having difficulty with the PIN or something, the password not working for Blackboard? I can't remember who that was. So just make sure you all have access and you're able to log on to Blackboard. And my advice to you is summer might be a good time to play around with Blackboard and just click the different links to become familiar with it, your student tab, your course tab, so that you know where everything is, the different modules, because you're going to be stuck with Blackboard the rest of your academic career here at DSU. So it's a good idea to become familiar with it. The journal article critiques, I've received drafts from many of you. I'm waiting on a few others. So the ones who have submitted the drafts to me, I'm going to give you your feedback. I've started to give feedback to at least 3 people. I think I finished today, but I'll try to finish the rest by tomorrow. And I'm using something called track changes. Have you used track changes in Microsoft Word before? Has anyone used it before?
Yes, Doc.
You have?
No.
Okay. You have? Okay, good. So some of you are using Google Docs, I see, and I'm trying to figure out how to download the Microsoft Word from Office 365 because you have access to it as a student. You get free access to all of the Microsoft applications. So I'll need to figure out, we were trying to do it earlier with Tamika, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I might have to ask someone else for more help on that. So if you don't have Microsoft Word, I would really recommend using it because it's going to be much more helpful when you write your final dissertation, even your perspectives, because you'll have to format it a certain way. And Google Docs may have some limitations on it or different ways of doing it. So it's highly recommended.
But the Word option that they have, it appears to be a cloud-based version.
The Word version in
The
Google
Office
Docs.
that they offer, no, the Office that is offered from the university.
Do you know how to download that?
I looked at it and then I said nah, because it's gonna be a cloud-based one, almost like Google Docs, really.
Oh, it's not this one that I have on right now.
It may be there, but the one I saw online would have been one that is docked in the cloud. So if you're in a space where you will not be able to work offline, you'll always have to need to have internet for it to work.
Okay, but I believe you can download it as an app on your desktop.
I will have to check that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to find out. So then it would show up as Word like this.
Right.
That's what I need to find out how to do for you. As a reminder, the journal article critiques will be due by Sunday. And for this course, the 2 major assignments are going to be 2 journal article critiques. One has to be mixed methods. The other can be either quantitative, qualitative, or another mixed methods, whichever you prefer. Is everyone okay with the Sunday due date? Yes, no?
That's short, Doc.
Sure. Is that Nicole?
No, Doc. I haven't gotten feedback as yet, so I'm kind of looking at the time frame. It's crunch time at work, so you know it's hard juggling.
Okay. Because then the class will end soon. So we want to have enough time for the second one. I don't want to make them two back to back.
Okay, so that answers my question. I was asking if both are due at the same time.
Both at the same time, it won't be really helpful for you. Because
Okay.
then whatever things you learn from your first experience, you can make changes when you do your second article critique.
Brilliant.
So I think it's better to have some space between them. But I think if I give you the feedback, if you submit the information to me, then it's just a matter of accepting the track changes and deleting the comments or making minor changes if it's not too much feedback that I've given you. I think it should be
Okay, Doc.
reasonable. Okay. But if you have trouble, who is it that said Sunday's not? I can't see when in this
Grace
mode what I'm
Ann.
sharing. Grace Ann. Okay. So you did send it to me, but you sent it probably to my wrong email address. That's why I don't have it
Yes,
yet.
Doc. I'm gonna see. I'm still on the road, so I'm
Okay.
gonna do it as soon as I get
Okay.
home.
Just
Okay.
prior to the class and responded.
What did you say? Can you say that again?
No, I'm saying I saw your email just prior to the class beginning and I responded to the email.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll try to shoot for Sunday. Let's see if we can get it done by Sunday. But if I don't get any draft by tonight, I'm not going to be able to obviously send you something by tomorrow before we meet class. So it may just be, you might receive your final feedback in the final version that you send. And the next thing is the SPSS. Does everyone have that downloaded on your laptops now?
Not yet, Doc. I just saw your message.
Okay. So it would help for you to follow along. You might have to review the notes after class to be able to do the same analysis that we're doing side by side on your computer. And I think somebody had an issue with I don't remember who it was, where your computer was a little bit older. Your laptop was older, so it wouldn't download the SPSS.
It would have been mine, Doc.
Okay. Were you able to straighten that out?
No, not as yet.
Not yet? Okay. Because that's going to prevent you from being able to do some of the analysis. So you might just have to watch, not really get the practice, hands-on practice. Because one of the assignments, assignment 4.2, is going to be uploading some of the data files to see if you're following along. The other question is your library database access. Does everyone have access so far?
I do.
Okay. Who doesn't have access still?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. Who doesn't have access? So I'm assuming everyone has access. You've all tried it out, your form, you've submitted your form. And for your next journal article critique, you can find something related to a topic you're interested in, rather than have to resort to the ones I put up in Blackboard. Is that correct? So put in the chat whether yes or no for the form. Do you all have access to the Blackboard form? Nicole is going to play with it. But you do have your D number works. They gave you something, right? That said that your D number should work, or you received some kind of response from the library. Okay, good. And the rest of you, Rashima has access. Okay, you did the form, but you haven't received a response. Everett, you have access. Good.
I got access, Doc.
Grace Ann, you have access?
Yes, they had responded to the
Okay,
form.
Good, good. So Nicole, by tomorrow, let me know what the status is when you test out your D number. Tamika, do you have access?
Yes, Doc, I responded. I do.
Okay, good.
All right.
Tiona?
I think I have access. Going to
Okay,
verify.
good. Alicia? Did we lose you, Alicia? Was she saying that she's driving? Or was that Grace Ann?
It was Grayson, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Laverne has access. Rachel, do you have access?
Yes, I responded. I have access.
Okay, great.
Yes, I have access, Dr. Daniel.
I might not be able to see everything. Shellyan has access, good. Dane, do you have access? Oh, it's taking a while for me to see the messages. My Wi-Fi must be straining. Because you may have responded, but I didn't see the response till now. So I don't know about Alicia and Dane. If you can let me know if you have access, because you're going to need it for your study and the rest of the classes. And I'm going to look into that Microsoft Word thing for you. From the journal article, some of the things I noticed is that you may not really be familiar with the APA manual and the APA guidelines. So that's something that you can review at this website here. It'll give you, if you type in anything about how to format, author, how to do the reference page, page numbers, what kind of spacing should it be, the first page, the rest of your document, whether it's a journal article or a dissertation. This website has a lot of good, useful resources. And some other general information about the journal article, you want to make sure that you're using double spacing, that you have a reference page. And that's the page where you'll put the information about the article that you used. Okay, so you don't have to put it in the first page or talk about it anywhere besides the reference
Doc,
page.
could you be kind and paste that website in the chat, please?
Yes.
Thanks.
Also, excuse me, Doc, I spoke, well, Alicia is trying to respond, but for some reason she's,
Oh,
yeah, so I just call her on a different phone and she's trying. So she's trying to figure it out.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
As
you.
soon as it's figured out, you will hear from her.
Okay. Good.
Thanks.
So that's the website about APA guideline. And the one that, now something that happened to me because I took too long doing my dissertation and they changed the whole edition. So I had learned using the 6th edition and then I had to learn towards the end of it, change everything using the 7th edition. 7th edition had some changes, which were some were minor, some were major. The other thing is we're used to, when we type, we use after a sentence, we're used to doing 2 spaces. But one thing I had to learn to use for APA, and now I can't go back to using 2 spaces, is that after a sentence, you have to use 1 space only. So for example, after this sentence, it's supposed to be 1 space only. And I was taught in my typing class to always use 2 spaces. But now that I've gone to using the 1 space, I can't go back to the other way. So that's something different that you'll learn based on what APA guideline recommends.
Hold on there. So AP no wants us to put 2 spaces after a sentence?
1 space, not 2.
Oh, because that's my.
Do you normally put 2 spaces after a sentence?
No, Doc.
You've been doing 1 space? Okay, good.
From
You're
the
doing
day
it
I
great.
learned to type.
So
Good.
that's where I have a problem because I always have 2 spaces after.
Yeah.
I have to
So
change it to
change it
correct.
to 1 space. And it's pretty easy to do. So let's say I have 2 spaces here, the sentence. And if you do find and replace, yes,
Because Alicia, no, I was hearing you. I would prefer that you review the one that I send later instead of the one that I sent you.
okay, okay,
the
you'll
other
send
day.
it to me today?
No, not today. I'll do my best by Friday.
Okay, Friday I might not have enough time to get it back to you. If you send it to me by tomorrow morning at least, then I can take a look at it in the morning.
All right, I'll try.
Who's this talking? I can't see when I'm sharing my
It's
screen.
Alicia, Doc. Remember I told you.
Alicia?
she was having
Okay, okay.
Technology
Thank
issues.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. So Alicia, I just have the one page for you, right?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, okay. But if I don't get anything back, then I'll just give you feedback on that one page. If you can send something to me tomorrow morning, then I'll be able to send you feedback. So I think if you go to replace, sometimes that works, where if you do type in 2 spaces and then replace with 1 space and then find the next and then replace, it should do it for you in all the spaces. It might be a good idea to look at it. So if you have to do it throughout your document, that's an option. I'm not going to require it, so because I'm not taking any points off for APA, but that's just so you know, so that you get into this habit. It's better to start the habit early on so that by the time you're ready for your dissertation, you don't have to correct so much.
Yes, Doc, thank you.
You're welcome. So there's in-text citation versus what you cite in the references. So those are some things you want to review on this Purdue OWL website. And if there's time at the end of the course, we can do a little bit more of the APA guidelines, and I'll give you some feedback on things that I notice in your papers. So in some of the journal articles, I noticed about the numbering, when to spell out a number versus when to use the numerical format. So for example, when to spell out 10 as in TEN versus the number 10. So I think the rule is 1 to 9, you would be spelling out in words, and then anything above 10, you would be just putting the number. So a lot of your studies had a lot of population, like more than 100. So you're not going to write 120, 150, or 130. You're just going to use the number. Those who were able to receive feedback, did you understand my track changes comments, or do you have any questions about them?
Yes, Doc, I understood.
Okay, good. And if you go into Word,
I haven't looked yet, Doc. I'll look. I'm actually
Okay.
using my phone to be in class today.
okay, sounds good.
Doc, I have a question.
Mhm.
If I don't have Microsoft Word and I can't get it downloaded like by Sunday.
You can still use the Google form, but don't send it as a PDF. In the PDF, I have to convert it to Microsoft Word, and then some of the formatting gets off.
Okay.
So if you're able to save it as like some of you saved it as some kind of Google doc format or something. So if you can save it something like that, that will be better.
Okay.
Send me both versions, and then I'll figure out which one is easier to review.
Okay.
Okay. So the track changes that I use in Microsoft Word, if you go on the review tab, this is where you can turn the track changes on, or you can turn them off. So when I'm giving you feedback, the reason I do it, I keep it on so that it will make a note that if I cross something out, or if I change it, the tense, and then if I have a comment, I'll click on the comment. If you want to if you looked at my comment and you want to get rid of it, that is off. It used to be delete. Yep, you would just delete the comment. So then it will get rid of the extra space that it created in the page. And then if you agree with my comment, you would do accept, and then it will take you to the next one. And then you'll say accept, and so on. It'll either accept or reject if you agree or don't agree with the comment. Okay? And I'm just going to turn it off. And another good idea, if you need help using a variety of words, how to begin, you don't want to say the authors did this, the study. You don't want to keep repeating yourself and say the research study was this. You don't want to start the sentence with the same information in the paragraph consistently. So there are different transition words you can use, like furthermore, additionally, consequently. So this is another source that you can use, and I can put that in the chat as well. It's another guide to help you.
This document that you're on, did you share it with us?
No, I'll post it in Blackboard when I'm done, in case I have changes that I make with you.
Okay.
I haven't posted it yet, no.
All right, thank you.
But I did post last week's document that we were doing, I think. Last week's agenda with some of the notes that we covered.
Okay, thank you, Doc.
You're welcome. So there is a nice short little video. I took some notes of it too for you, so you don't have to worry about taking the notes, but I guess I'll play the video for you. This is the video that was in module 4. Has anyone had a chance to look at it? Figure out where it is. Did you get a chance to go to Blackboard module 4 and look at the video? This intro to statistics video?
Been there, no.
Yes, no,
Not for me.
not for you. Okay.
I didn't go, Doc.
No, okay. You guys are so busy. So let me click. No, okay. Let me see. I thought there was a way to play it in YouTube. Here we go. So it should open in YouTube. And I had to remember to do the sound. I have to always remember that. You have to remind me to share my sound. Okay. Let me make sure that I share the sound. Optimize. No, that's the wrong one.
The 3 dots at the end, though.
Okay. To hear the sound now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Doc.
What is statistics? Statistics can be defined as the collection and interpretation of data. All around the world, we use statistics to measure and analyze variability. People have different heights, weights, hair color, food preferences, and so on. These things are all variable because they change among different individuals. There are 2 kinds of statistics. There's inferential statistics and there's descriptive statistics. Inferential statistics deals with taking a sample and analyzing that sample to make judgments or claims about a population. Descriptive statistics refers to getting data and talking about it. So when you hear a professor say something like the average midterm score was 65%, they are using descriptive statistics. We often use things like histograms and graphs to help us summarize and explain descriptive statistics. The first part of the course deals with descriptive statistics, and the second part of the course deals with inferential statistics. In order to understand statistics, you'll first have to know some basic definitions. A population refers to the total amount of things. I say things because a population can refer to almost anything. This can refer to the total amount of people, cats, vehicles, houses, and so on. Now, a sample refers to a small part of the population that is used for study, and the total amount of things in a sample is called the sample size. In statistics, what we examine is a variable. It is what we are studying, and it can be measurable, countable, and categorized. When we talked about how people can have different heights, weights, and hair color, these are all variables. Variables represent a characteristic of what we are trying to study, and they can vary among different individuals. When we measure a variable, our data can come into 2 different forms. There is categorical data and there is quantitative data. Quantitative data refers to data that is measured in numbers. It deals with numbers that make sense to perform arithmetic calculations with, like calculating an average. Quantitative data comes from quantitative variables. Examples include height, weight, and midterm score. On the other hand, categorical data refers to values that place things into different groups or categories. Categorical data comes from categorical variables. Examples include hair color, type of cat, and letter grade. There are actually two types of categorical variables. There is categorical and ordinal, and categorical and nominal. Something is said to be categorical and ordinal if there is a logical ordering to the values of a categorical variable. A good example of this would be letter grade. We can logically order the values of this categorical variable from high to low, or from low to high. Now, something is said to be categorical and nominal if there is no logical ordering to the values of a categorical variable. An example of this would be hair color. Depending on our sample, we could have people with red hair, blonde hair, brown hair, or even blue hair. Although we can arrange these values in alphabetical order, there is no logical ordering with respect to the actual values itself. There are also two types of quantitative variables. There is discrete and continuous. Discrete variables refer to variables that can only be measured in certain numbers. An example of this is the number of pets you own. You can own 0 pets, 1 pet, 2 pets, or even 30 pets, but it's impossible for us to own 2.7 pets. In contrast, continuous variables refer to variables that can take on any numerical value. An example of this would be weight. Someone can weigh 105 pounds, 185 pounds, or even 170.683 pounds. We can measure this variable in as many decimal places as we want, which is why it is classified as a continuous variable. So to recap, a population refers to the total number of things. A sample refers to a small part of the population that we examine and extract information from. The total number of things in a sample is called a sample size. What we measure from each individual is the variable of interest. The way we measure these variables lets us know if the variable is quantitative or categorical. For example, if our variable of interest was midterm scores for statistics, we would have quantitative data if we measure each individual's test score. If instead we decide to place people into categories based on letter grade, then we would be working with categorical data.
Were you able to hear and see okay, the video?
Yes, we were.
Okay.
I got bumped off just a while ago. I thought the video had stopped.
Oh, did it, like sometimes the internet might be slower. So did it come through okay on your end?
It was playing okay until I just saw it stopped.
Okay.
But it was just at the end.
Just at the end. Okay. So it's very easy and simple terms. They explain statistics. Because I know a lot of people like us in social sciences, in education, we don't like numbers, and quantitative is not our forte. So I just broke down some of the key concepts that they covered for you here in our notes. So they described what statistics is. They said it's basically you're collecting and you're interpreting data. So it's very, oops, not qualitative. Sorry, this is supposed to be quantitative. Often used for quantitative data. Anyone else have any input of what they think statistics is? And not a nightmare. Have you taken any statistics class for your master's degrees?
I did, Doc, and it was a nightmare. It's just so much things to interpret when you're dealing with the statistics. It was too much for me.
Right. So it can be overwhelming, but
yes,
it's going to be.
Yeah. I did a course which is certified hotel industry analytics, and it deals with big data.
Okay.
And a lot, and it's part of the statistics that we had to do because it's heavy maths, and it was really much to handle, Doc.
Right. But do you understand why it's important in hotel management and industry?
Yes, we have to do our predictions. It was primarily geared at how it is that we benchmark our competitors, what it is that we need to do in terms of the numbers, what is the stats showing us, what is it that we need to do, where we need to go.
Right, exactly. Even this whole COVID pandemic, that was all that we heard, right? They were scientists tracking this new virus using a lot of data, statistics. So they used all of this information, even though it can be overwhelming. There are people who specialize in it. For our purposes, we may not do too much inferential statistics unless your study is going to be mostly quantitative. So if you're leaning towards quantitative, then you definitely might be using some inferential statistics. And the video, what they describe the inferential statistics as, you're analyzing a small sample and then you're going to make some conclusions about your big population. So one of the things is when they talked about population at the start of the video, they said it could be any collection of things. It's basically how much do you have of something. So it doesn't necessarily have to be people. So if you're doing a collection of schools, hotels, systems or software people are using, that would be your population too. Because when we think of population, we think of people always, right? But it can also just be about just about anything. And inferential statistics is going to help you draw conclusions about the population. You're going to look at differences between the groups. Are there any relationships and some variables that you're finding out? What are the relationships between the variables and the different groups? So those are going to be more in-depth inferential statistics. Some are very simple, like a t-test, correlation might be simple enough. We'll do a little bit of that maybe next week, but you're not going to probably do too much heavy inferential statistics for the type of topics that you may be interested in. But if you are doing a quantitative, you might definitely do some describing. So you might look at the data, the trends, the patterns that you notice. Do you notice there are more males, more females? Do you notice different socioeconomic backgrounds? So these would be interpreted as some. So these would be interpreted as percentages or counts of how many do you notice. You might do the mean, the mode, and the median. And some of this you might see in your education reports, such as the average scores. You might see where the scores are spread out, whether are they on the lower end, middle end, higher end. So that helps you to compare your class of students maybe to things, to how students are doing at the district level, right? So have you noticed any type of descriptive statistics in your work environment? If anyone wants to jump in and say it or type it in the chat. Do you, is everyone clear about the difference between descriptive statistics and inferential?
Me that based on
Could you go back over that, please?
right.
Okay. So the inferential statistics, you're going to be looking at your sample and then you're going to make some conclusions about the population. So you might notice, for example, if you did a treatment and you have some innovative educational practice that you're employing in one group of students, and then you're going to have them take a test. Both groups are going to take a test. And then you're going to compare the average test scores from one group to another so that you can interpret that, okay, after implementing this innovative practice among middle schoolers, their scores improved by 5 points, 2 points, whatever conclusions you come up with. You're going to compare what the average scores are between the two groups. One would be your treatment group. The other would be like a control group where you didn't implement this innovative practice. So that's an example of inferential statistics where you're conducting a study on a small group and then making judgments about how the impact for a whole population. Is that more clearer for inferential statistics? And that's like a simple explanation of it.
So, Doc, in every event or in most events, you'd have to have the control variable and the treatment?
No, not in all, but it's just an example to give you an idea of difference of groups.
Okay.
You might look at correlation, would be an inferential statistics as well. So if you have something is related to like people who get COVID, what is their impact long term? You might look at some factors that impact their health in the future. So is there a correlation between getting COVID and then future health, longevity? So those two factors you're looking at, whether the two are related with each other. But that would fall under inferential statistics also. So it's not necessarily just the difference of groups, but that's just an example.
Okay.
So
But you're doing-
would it be fair to say, read the descriptive statistics that you based on the description, based on the trends that you see, you could make an inference in terms of presenting inferential statistics? Does that happen?
No, not descriptive statistics are just describing the data, patterns and trends that you notice.
Right, so I'm saying in terms of describing the data, you can make inferences at the end based on the trends that you see.
Not necessarily, because the inferential statistics is you're doing, they're just the way that they're grouping the two types of statistics, but you're talking about, you're making generalizations, right? I think what you're referring to is generalizing your data and how it would apply to the general population. So if there was a pattern or a trend that you noticed in your small population, you would generalize to maybe all students in the doctoral program. Is that what you mean?
Okay, and that is not inferential.
Yes, that is not, that's generalizing to the population.
Okay, so it's either you're using inferential or you're using descriptive.
Yes, yes. So descriptive, you're just describing what are the patterns, trends. So these are often your charts, your graphs, things that you notice, how many students fall into different categories, how many students have completed the course successfully, are just examples. And you're summarizing and really explaining the data. You might have things such as averages, what is the number that occurs most frequently, median, how the scores are spread out, for example, on a test. Is that all? Does this clear up the difference between descriptive and inferential?
Yes.
So now, is it that descriptive statistics is mostly used within quantitative type
Both can be
methodologies?
used. Both can be used in
Both can
quantitative.
be used?
Yes, both can be used. But it depends on how in depth, like if you're doing a lot of health data, science data, they might use inferential statistics more. But in education, we might stick more to descriptive. We might not have too much advanced statistics, depending on your study.
Okay.
But if you definitely had some idea of an innovative practice and you want to compare the different groups of students, then it would definitely be a inferential statistics. Because if you're implementing some strategy and then you're noticing, is it an improvement or the same or no improvement? Does that make sense? And descriptive is something that you see. Sorry.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
No, I think I had interrupted you, so I wanted to let you finish and then I'll ask.
Okay. I don't know what I was saying.
All right, let me go ahead then, so let's just say we're looking at the whole issue of COVID and the various vaccines. If you want to compare efficacy or, effectiveness of, let's say, give me the two different vaccines. Johnson & Johnson versus the
Moderna.
Is there?
That would be inferential.
Yeah.
So you look at two. Okay.
Yes, exactly. But if you were only reporting on the percentage of populations that are getting the Moderna vaccine versus Pfizer vaccine, then that would be descriptive. So if you're only reporting on the percentages, or you have a map, maybe a heat map that shows, okay, the populations along the East Coast prefer Pfizer versus the populations along the West Coast, something like that. That's describing the data.
Okay, thanks, Doc. That's clear.
You're welcome. Do you have any examples in your work environment of descriptive statistics? Anyone? things on student data. What do you kind of data do you report on your students?
Right. I was about to say, when you're analyzing even exam test scores and so on,
Mhm.
right? I suspect it would be descriptive statistics. Is it?
Yes, most of the
Right.
time,
Right.
unless you, I guess if you
Especially when you're making comparison with, for example, gender,
right,
how the girls score versus how the males score.
right, exactly,
Right.
exactly. And sometimes you might have what questions are students getting frequently wrong, percent correct versus percent incorrect, to be able to find the difficult questions. So those are all descriptive.
Oh, cool. I have a workshop to do, so I get some more ammunition. Thanks.
You're welcome. And then we already covered the population. Do you understand the difference between population and sample?
Yes, that was pretty clear to me.
That was clear? Okay, good. So your sample is just a small portion of your whole population, because there's no way that you can include every single doctoral student, every single student in your class or your school in your study. So you might have a select grade, or you might select 20 students from each grade level, or you might have random sampling, or you might have purposive sampling.
To that, I'm sorry, I was about to go there because I know to understand what a sample is fine, you know, but then there comes a time now when you have to describe the sampling.
Yes.
And that is when now you're gonna find that there are many variations in terms of how you describe or how you identify a type of sampling technique or methodology or so on. And with I suspect we have to all be okay with that.
Mhm.
Right.
So sometimes you might have convenience sampling.
Right.
Convenience sampling, that was basically what's available to you. You only have your school available, or you only have the teachers in your school available. So that's why you use convenience sampling. You'll have purposive, purposeful or purposive. I forget what that's pronounced.
Purposeful.
Purposeful, okay. Sampling, where you restrict, you only want males, you only want females, you only want certain groups. Then you purposefully exclude people who don't meet a certain criteria. You might have random sampling if you have too much in a population and you can't include everybody. So you have to have some way to randomly select them without being biased towards any group or individuals. What other types have you read about? Convenience, purposeful sampling, random?
What about criterion? Criteria sampling.
Criterion, what is that?
What, because when you set up some criteria in which the persons must fall into, so there must be Black students attending, so you give some criteria.
Okay.
And then the persons must fall in that criteria. Is it the same? Because I just heard you talk about purposeful sampling.
Yeah, it sounds like
It's
purposeful.
the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, I think it sounds the same thing. And the jargon depends on different fields. Some fields might call it purposeful, some fields might call it criterion. We can look for the difference too if we want, but there might be slight differences, but I don't know. Anyone else?
A sample.
What was that again?
It's me doing my favorite thing, YouTube.
I didn't hear you. Random, and then what else?
To have stratified something.
I'm seeing, but I'm not getting a description of it, like cluster.
Which
systematic cluster.
Oh, cluster.
And
What's
systematic.
that?
I have to research that one, but I'm just looking at it by quick Googling.
Okay, good.
Right.
Yep. There's a lot more, and you might find when you delve more into your topic, when you go into the databases and research the different articles that are related to your field, you might find that certain topics utilize certain type of sampling technique because it works best, or it gives the best information, or it's easiest to study. So you might find more additional things than what we're covering in the class, but that's definitely, the classes just give you a little surface level view, but you're going to delve more deep into when you get to your topic and you work on your prospectus. But that's a good point, the difference between sample and sampling. Very good. And then they describe variables. The way they describe the variables are, they said that it's anything that can be categorized, measured, something you can count. So they describe it as a variable. What are some variables that you found in your journal articles? You can type in the chat or you can say them.
For me, Doc, I was just looking at the dependent and the independent.
Dependent and independent variables.
Yes.
What's the difference between the two?
Oh boy, help me out, our colleagues. Let's go. All right. So one, say for example, the dependent variable, it basically depends on an input, you know. So in my case, I was looking at the parental involvement as it relates to students' academic achievement, right? So of course, we know that students' academic achievement would basically be a dependent variable, right?
So
Did
the
I get
academic
it?
achievement.
Yes.
Okay.
Did I get it right?
I don't know.
Right, I think so. Right?
Academic achievement is the
Yeah.
dependent,
So,
and then the independent.
and then the independent would have been, or right, independent would have been the parental involvement, and in some cases like the parental provision of school supplies, you know, and those would have been variables that could be identified, right? Resources. Thank you. So that's basically how I summed it up in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Okay.
Right.
Okay. If you can find out more information for tomorrow, that's your homework.
I will.
You could teach us more about the difference between the two, dependent
problem.
and independent variables. So that's more than we were going to cover today, but thank you for taking that leap. Any other variables that you found? So academic achievement, what are the ways they measured academic achievement in your study?
How did they do it now? I don't think they really measured it. I don't think they went too deep in academic achievement per se. What they looked at in the one that I reviewed was the types of parental involvement that would result now in students' academic achievement. So, for example, there were a lot of discussions around communication between parent and teacher communication, parenting styles. They looked at, as I said before, the provision of key resources for the students and the type of support that the students get while doing things like assignments and so on.
Okay.
So, right. So generally, they never really delved into academic achievement on a whole, but they delved more into the types of involvement that they could identify coming from the inputs of the parents.
Okay.
Right.
So if we were thinking of academic achievement, some things might be like test scores,
Definitely.
grades on how the student does,
Right.
whether they pass, fail courses, right? What other?
And to some extent, even though this is hard to measure, but student confidence too.
Confidence.
Yes.
Confidence scales, maybe on a survey. If there was some kind of survey that they use, yep, definitely. So those definitely are examples of good variables because you can categorize them, you can measure them, you can count them. And then the next section talked a little bit about the types of variables, whether they're categorical. So in SPSS, you'll see that we have something called nominal categorical variables. Categorical variables means that they are just types of categories. They're not really necessarily a number. So letter grades would be A, B, C, D. Hair color, they gave an example of hair color as a categorical variable, and hair color doesn't have any kind of logical order for the categories because one hair color is not going to have more value than another hair color. So they were all called nominal. So nominal is the same as a name. It's just a name that a category is given, but you're going to describe maybe the percentage of students that had a certain hair color or a certain eye color or percentage of males versus females in your study. Okay, so you might describe the demographics of your sample by explaining what groups, what percentage of certain race the students were. Okay, it might be helpful for your study to give some demographic information such as gender, race, maybe the type of school, any other background information you have available. If you have a way that you can order, there's some kind of a logical order, such as grades. We know that A is better than a B. If there's a Likert scale, such as strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, there is definitely an order to that. You want to see mostly strongly agree depending on the question. So there's some kind of order, and they refer to this as ordinal type of variable. Okay, do you see the difference between nominal and ordinal?
Yes.
This is good. And this is all just terminology. The more you become used to it and see it in SPSS, you'll get used to it.
What normally used would have been the context clues, though. And when we're learning things like early maths, and we talk about ordinal numbers and so on.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Doc,
That's the association that I made with it as well. First, second, when we think about types of numbers.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Doc, question. I first interacted with these with the SPSS software, but I never got a hang of it. The difference. Could you repeat, please?
Okay, so the categorical variables, they just are, you can categorize certain groups. So you can categorize hair color. They're giving some examples, such as you might have black hair, blue hair, blonde, not blue hair, but blonde hair, brown hair, gray hair. So these are just categories, labels. And the categorical variables have two different types. They can be nominal if there is no logical order to them. So hair color, of course, eye color, gender, race, there is no logical order. You're not giving one category more weight than another. But an ordinal type of categorical variable is one that will have a logical order, such as your letter grades, such as if you have a survey where you're asking them questions on a Likert scale. So if you're asking them, how likely are you to complete this test? How likely are you to participate? Or how likely are you to visit our hotel on a next day? Then you might ask them questions like strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. That's ordinal. You can still analyze it, but they are just categories. They're not numerical. Does that make sense?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, good. And then you'll get the hang of it the more you get into the system and look at it. And the best way to learn is just by doing it, going in there and practicing and testing different things out is the way that you'll learn the best. I'm gonna try to break this page so that it would flow better, but I don't know. It's not letting me. And so the two types of very main types, the categorical we discussed, and the next type is going to be the quantitative. It's also called interval, and SPSS calls this the scale variable. So this is basically the quantity, okay? Quantitative, interval, scale, they are all interchangeable, but it basically means there's some kind of a numeric quantity. If it is something that can only be expressed as whole numbers, they gave the example of the number of pets. You can't have 2.8 pets or 2.9 pets. You're going to have either 2 or 3 pets. Then it's called a discrete variable. Versus continuous is when you're going to have your decimal points. There's an unlimited number of decimal points you can have, right? You're going to try to limit it for the representation of data, but things like weight can be expressed by numerous decimal points, depending how good your scale is. The same thing with your exam scores. Sometimes students like for you to take it out to more decimal points so that you can round up, but that's the difference between discrete and continuous variables. Are there examples of quantitative or scale variables that you have in your field besides your test scores for your students? And then let me know whether it's discrete or continuous, if we can identify the difference between the two.
Discrete could be used for students' attendance. Continuous. Trying to figure out continuous.
Something that has to do with time.
Yes,
Or
exactly.
measurement.
Time, time spent on task. What else? Examples of continuous variables you might have.
It could be how far you drive to work.
Distance.
Yeah,
Definitely.
distance.
Very good. So you got that down well, the quantitative piece.
Attendance.
Attendance, she said, is discrete, because you're going to just have a whole number. I guess some of you come in, it depends on whether the attendance is measured by time or by days. So if it's measured by number of days the student attended, then it would be discrete. But if it's by maybe time, like here, Zoom will give me, if I go into the reports, I'll be able to find out how many minutes each person stayed in this class. So then that would be a continuous variable because it'll give me seconds all the way up to the seconds.
What if it's measured by percentage?
Percent would be continuous. Is that what you asked?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, sometimes when they're describing attendance, they'll say the student is early or present 50% of the time.
Yeah. If attendance is described as a percent, then it would be a continuous variable. So it all depends on your study, right? And how you frame your study and what's important that you want to take out of it. So let's go look back at some of the information that Everett found in his journal article. So the test score, is this categorical, nominal, ordinal, or a discrete or continuous quantitative variable?
Discrete.
Discrete. Why do you say discrete?
Oh, you know, it could be continuous because depending on the score, because a child could score 98.5.
Right. Yeah. More often it's going to be continuous.
Yes.
And then grades. So by grades, I mean the letter grades. Is that categorical, nominal, ordinal, quantitative, discrete, or continuous?
Ordinal.
Ordinal, yep. Exactly. Pass and fail courses. This one's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
Would be categorical?
Yep, it's definitely categorical.
Yeah, I agree.
But is it nominal or ordinal?
Nominal.
You say nominal?
Yes.
Yes, because it has a specific category. Because it
No.
either pass or fail, there's no in between.
But is one better than the other?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
So
better
it's
to
only
pass.
two.
fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though there's only two labels, there is
Hold
some
on.
order to it.
One is better than the other, depending on what you're researching.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
it does depend on your research. Definitely.
You may be looking for the number of failures.
Yes. So it does vary on your study. Confidence scales. Now this is another one that would depend on the study and what type of scale you're using too. Because some of them will have just a categorical confidence scale where they have, you know, like if you were using an emoji, very happy, like if you saw in the Kahoot, how did you feel after completing this Kahoot? Happy, not happy, or same. That's kind of a categorical type of scale. But if you had a numeric value, then it might be quantitative. So this one is going to vary the confidence scales. What about the parental involvement communication? Would you say that's categorical or quantitative?
Could you repeat that now?
For the parental involvement communication, would you describe that as categorical or quantitative?
I think categorical, Doc.
You think categorical?
Recall.
Categorical? Why do you think categorical?
Because the information that we're coming out, would there be no logical order in which it is presented, and you might have different, wide range.
So if they're talking about different modes of communication, then it would be categorical.
Oh, well, in that case,
Like email or text
right.
message or a
But you said-
letter.
okay.
But if they were talking about frequency of
Mhm.
communication, then what would it be?
Quantitative,
Then it would be quantitative.
Quantitative.
Discrete or continuous?
continuous.
Continuous?
Yes.
Can you have 1.11 frequency of communication?
If it is sequencing, then it means it is a methodology. So it
Depends
would
on the
have to be-
methodology.
Yes, steps 1, 2, 3, which can be measured each stage.
So we're talking about frequency, how often?
But frequency can be looked at using percentage as well. Well, that was my interpretation.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about percent of communication that was sent through email, percentage sent through text message like that?
Yes.
Yes, if it's percent, then it would be quantitative, continuous. I was thinking more of 1, 2, more than 2, 3, 4. But then if it's that type, then it would be just discrete. So yes, it definitely does depend on your study. So we need more information about Everett's research article that he looked at. Parenting styles. Is that categorical or quantitative?
I would say categorical.
Yep, exactly. Even though you may find in your study that some parenting styles are better and may have impacted positive achievement in students, you would just describe them as categories. Yeah, there's no logical order to parenting styles, and there is no, so it would just be naming the categories. Good. Does that help clear up the difference between these concepts? So now this is some additional thing you can include when you're looking at your variables. in your journal articles. You can apply some of the statistics, whether they're using descriptive statistics, inferential, and what type of variable they're using. So these are some videos for you to review on your own for more in-depth review. So now what I will do is try to open up the SPSS. Let me see if I have it open. And then I did, I think I did, let me see, make sure. You can follow along on your laptop as well, because it always helps to do this on another screen as I'm doing it with you. Because when you're watching somebody do the same thing and you follow along, it'll help you to remember the steps too. So if you go into module 4, so this is last week's agenda is pasted here. I'll add this week's after we're done typing the notes that we work on together here as well. And we did this video. So these are not items that you'll see because these are not assignments that are required for you. But if you go to assignment 4.2, there's 2 files here. One is the Excel training and the other is Education 833 online. This is the survey that you all completed. So these are the results of the survey that I downloaded in Excel format from the SurveyMonkey. So if you click on it, if you just click on it, you'll be able to download it. And then once you download it, just make a note of where it's being saved. There's 2 tabs to this spreadsheet. One is all the questions, and then the quantitative one is the worksheet that we're going to use. Okay, so I had to format some of these questions. If you notice in the survey, I asked this question, what is your first name? And it had a question mark. But SPS is funny, certain characters are not allowed, so it doesn't allow me to import questions all the time. So it was giving me some kind of an error, so I removed them, but it seems to be okay with the parentheses. So I did make some formatting changes to it, and then I deleted some blank columns. So you might notice some extra blank columns here that weren't used. So for cleaning up the data, I removed some of it and condensed it. And I didn't include all of the qualitative data. So some of the question marks I forgot here, I see. So I didn't include all of the qualitative data because it's not going to be meaningful that much in SPSS anyway. And we only have the results from the 12 students in this class. So let me just save this. So just make sure once you download it, you'll just click on save as and either save it wherever you have it already in your downloads folder or somewhere folder related to this course. I'm just going to put it in module 4. And replace it. So I have my Excel file, and we don't want the file open. You just want to follow that step of downloading the file so that you have it. And what we're going to do is actually import this file into SPSS.
Excuse me, Dr. Daniels. Where do I find this file? Module 4, assignment.
Module 4, assignment 4.2.
4.2. Thank you.
It's the second one.
Doc, if I may.
Yes.
I'm trying to see the assignments, but I'm not seeing the assignments online. What I'm only seeing is saying grade. And even when I click, I'm not seeing the assignments breakout.
Okay.
In terms of the
so you're in this class, right? Did you click on the class
Yes.
first? And then you went to learning modules?
Let me go back as you were talking.
Okay. So you want to make sure that you're in the learning modules.
Oh, learning module, I find it.
It's on the left side.
Yes.
And then we're in module 4.
Okay, got you.
So then you'll click on module 4.
I'm seeing it now.
You see it now? Okay, good.
Yes.
Is everyone
thanks.
else able to see it? You're welcome. Anyone else have any trouble finding it? And then we're on assignment 4.2. So stop me if you have any trouble at any point, okay? I can't see your faces to see what's going on, but so just unmute yourself and let me know if I need to stop at any point. And all I did was downloaded this. It downloads automatically in my computer to just my downloads folder, and then I just put it where I want it to be so I can easily find it. If you prefer to just find it from the downloads folder, that's fine too. And the other step is going to be, you're going to go in here and find your SPSS. So you can type in SPSS, and then in your search field, and then open the app for it, the software. If you haven't downloaded it, let me go through the steps of that as well. So maybe by the end of this course, you'll be able to get it downloaded. So I'm just going to minimize this for a second. I have 2 instances of it open. So in order to download it, you're going to go back to the top. You're going to click on students. And we did this last week, but if you still did not get a chance to do it or having some issues, you want to go to students, and on the left side, you'll see the instructions. There are directions here for a PC versus a Mac. And then if you click on one of the other 2 links, it will give you the software package. So it will download the software package. And then you have to follow the installation instructions. If you have any trouble, I can stay after class and guide you through it as well. And then once you download it, you want to do launch the license wizard, and then the key is available here. So you would just copy the key and paste it in the license wizard once the software is downloading, because it requires a license. The university has a university-wide license for it. I'm not going to save any of this right now. So here is my SPSS. I'm going to exit out of here. So when you first go into SPSS, you're going to see the welcome dialog. And when you go to the welcome dialog, you might have something like this. It might look like this. You can go to recent files. You might not have anything in the recent files when the first time you're using it. And then they have a nice little repository of all of these sample files. So here you can look at some data and play with it. So if you mess up this data, nothing's going to happen. Okay. So you can follow along different tutorials or go to help and search different tests that you can run and play with some of the data that's in here. And then if you have some file, if you are creating a new data file, then you would just stay on the page that you are on. I'm just going to close out of here. Let me move this out of the way. Oops. I think I have 3 windows of this open now. But the best way to become familiar with SPSS is just playing with it. If you click on the bottom, you'll see your data view and your variable view. This is the details about your data, what type of variable it is, how many columns, what do you call the variable. If it's like a drop-down list or a Likert scale, you might have way that you're labeling it. For example, if strongly agree, then you count that as like a 5, agree might be 4. If it's neutral, you might give it a number 3. Even for gender, you might have a category where you label male as 1 and female as 2. It doesn't mean anything, but you're just labeling the fields just for your analysis. So we have variable view and data view, and you would toggle between the 2. Right now, we don't have any data, so you're not going to see anything. And you might notice that SPSS is just like a big spreadsheet, but it looks very different. And whatever you don't label is just going to call it VAR. So just like you would have column headings, SPSS will do that and label your columns for you. Normally, when you work with SPSS, some of the video tutorials show you how to enter raw data, but most of the time you're not really entering raw data for maybe 10 or 15 students. You're going to have a lot of data in quantitative studies. So the best way to do that is import the data, or you can copy and paste it. Okay, so the video will give you more information about how to manually enter the data, but I think for our purposes, usually importing the data is going to work better for us because you might make mistakes if you're copying and pasting or entering raw data yourself. And that is one of the things that you want to prevent in quantitative studies. Is everyone able to open their SPSS and look at the two tabs, data view and variable view? Did I lose you? Are we still here? We didn't do much. All we did was open the software and we just closed the welcome dialog.
Yes, I'm there.
You're here? Okay, good. I just want to make sure I have everybody before we move to the next step.
Doc, I
So-
just got home, so I am just downloading now.
You're downloading? Okay, good. So you can review this lesson later or type or write down the steps and follow along later as well. So I'm going to go back to my Excel spreadsheet where I have the information. I just wanted to show you that you can also take your data and copy it. So if you don't have too many rows, and let's say I only want a few of the data, I can highlight all of the data. And you can go ahead and practice and play along with this as well. And you can do Control C on your keyboard, or you can right click and do copy. And then go back to one of your SPSS windows and click the first cell and then do Control V to paste the data. So do you see how all of the data that I had highlighted and selected got pasted here? But one of the things that it did is it took the respondent ID, my column headings, and it made it a number 1. So it's counting, these are called cases. So cases is basically, you can consider this as like your participant. Since this was a survey, it made my row headings a participant. I don't want that. I don't want to have a participant called respondent ID and all of this. This is supposed to be the labels up here. They should go here in the variance where it's just automatically giving it 1, 2, 3, and so on. Labels should really go there. So that's the issue with pasting it. The other thing I could have done is probably not included that and just counted wherever I have the data. So if I went Control C this time, then went into my SPSS window and did Control V, that would help. That would get rid of the first row where it made my headers look like it was an actual participant in my study. Okay. But I still have to go in and label what these things are called. So now if I go to variable view, you're going to see that SPSS does some of these things automatically for me. So it automatically gave these labels. This doesn't mean anything. So I have to go back to my survey and get this information if I'm doing copying and pasting it. And it automatically knew that this that looks like a number. When they say string, this basically means text, that this is words. Okay, text, string, words, they're all the same thing. So you can either have numeric or string. There are other options in here as well, but if you were working with currency, you might have dollar amounts if you are keeping track of different dates. So let's say you have a pre and a post test, then you might have a date column. So there are other options as well, but for our purposes, it's usually numeric or string. And then how wide your column is, whether you have decimals or not. And this is where you actually label it. I don't remember whether this was respondent ID or something. That's when you're just go in and start typing what the answers are. And then we'll talk a little bit about this. What you do if there's any missing data, how do you want to handle the missing data? It's going to ask you for options. And we're not going to play with that much right now. How do you want your data aligned? It automatically aligns the numeric data on the right, and then string, it aligns it to the left. I don't think it did anything to the center. So some of it might be personal preference, how you want to view the data. And then this is the part where we were talking about the difference between nominal and ordinal. So here, this one doesn't know. It didn't automatically know whether the respondent ID was scale, ordinal, or nominal. And for our purposes, it doesn't really mean anything, so it's nominal. So your respondent ID 1.001 doesn't matter whether it's 1.001 or 002 or 3. There's no order to it. So that's why I called it nominal. So the ones that are unknown, you'll have to go in and make the judgments depending on what your data is. Are you all still with me?
Yes, Dr. Daniel.
Okay.
I'm trying to paste my
I'm a bit
information,
lost.
but it's not working.
You're trying to paste it?
Yeah, but it's not working.
Okay. Okay. Let me show you the other option then.
Dr. Daniel,
Yes.
I was trying to follow you. I've
Okay.
copied and pasted, right? But on the variable page, under measure where it says nominal, I am not making a connection right there.
Okay. So
went
some
back
of it, did some of it already populate for you?
Pardon?
Did some of the scales populate for you? Did it have nominal in some of the categories already filled out for you?
Well, it said nominal for all of them under measure for variable view.
Okay, it does say nominal for everything.
Yes,
Do you
nominal.
have some unknown?
Unknown in under measure?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not seeing
You
any.
don't have any unknown? Okay.
No, I don't have any unknown
You don't
either.
have any
Straight
unknown either? Okay.
nominal.
Okay, I don't know. Mine did unknown for some of them, so I have to go in and manually say that it's nominal.
You were explaining though, but I didn't get that.
Okay.
Relates to the data view and the variable view. So how did they come by the nominal under measure? That's what I wanted to find out, because that's not clear.
Yeah, the system automatically labeled some of these as nominal based on, so it said that it looked at these names. So these names don't mean anything. So it said that this is nominal data. If you remember the information that we discussed between quantitative versus categorical data, the two types of categorical data are either nominal or ordinal. Also, the system didn't know. I don't think we have any. I don't think I have any.
All right, so you're saying that is in really the measure field. They are that's in relation to the
type of variable.
Column. Your first name.
So this not the column first name. The measure is this is about your first variable. So this whole information is about the first column. So it's about this column only.
Respondent's ID.
Yes, respondent ID. That's what it's about.
Okay.
That's how it goes in the variable view. So this is details about the first column. The second one is details about the second column. The third one is details about the third column. So the third column is what? Another date, the end date. I think this is the end date of the survey. So this doesn't mean much, but this is just practice for us in just becoming familiar with how SPSS portrays the data. But that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Each column in the data view is aligned to the column in the view.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly. Okay, that's what I wanted to find out.
Good.
Thank you.
Does everyone see the difference between how the data are represented in the data view versus the variable view? Did Laverne question help you?
Well, in my data view, I would have 13 under respondent's ID. When I go into variable view, should you have the same number?
No, because the variable view is the details about each column.
Okay.
So the details that we're putting in about the column is what is the name of the column? What type of data is it? Is it numeric data or is it string data? How wide do you want decimal places? What kind of label do you want to give the column? If it's like a Likert scale, you might have 1 through 5. Or if you have gender and you coding it as 1, 2, Even races sometimes are coded. They're given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of value, but not necessarily that it's ordinal.
Okay, but I was wondering, Doc, why mine would look so much different from yours and I'm using the same data set.
You
Because
may
I
have,
have in variable view about 50 variables.
yeah, I didn't copy all of the file, all of
Oh,
the, I
okay.
only copied
All
the
right,
first
just
few.
making sure. Okay,
So how
Doc.
many is it? 17? 17 columns is all I copied. That's why.
Okay, okay.
I just copied what I could see in the screen. And then the other thing I realized is I was putting my column headings as a case. So it was counting it as a participant in my
Right.
survey. So I started copying from below here.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing. So I
Yeah.
probably need to copy it and
Yep. You can also delete if you go into the first one. You can click on it and then just clear it. It'll get rid of it. Any
okay,
extra
Doc.
data. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, it's gone. Okay.
But a better way rather than copying and pasting the data is importing. When you import the data, then it's going to give you the labels already. It's going to label them in the name as well. Okay, so that's much easier and better to do. I just wanted to show you that you can do both. So now if I want to import the data, let me go to my empty worksheet and I'm going to go into file. You have to remember where you saved that Excel file. Okay, so that's going to be really important. If you don't know where the Excel file is, you might want to find it. I'm going to see if this works when I have the file open, but it might not. It might ask me to close the Excel data first. So if I go to import data, and here you can see that you can import other types of files as well, SSV and text as well, all these different kinds. I'm not sure what all the others are, but mine is Excel. So I'm going to choose the first option. And then you want to go, if your file doesn't show up automatically, I've done this before, so it's going to show up the file exactly where I went, the folder I went to. But if your folder does not show up automatically, you can click this little arrow and folder icon, and then you can even do this drop down if you need to search. If you have it in your downloads folder, you can find it from there as well. So I'm going to go back to where I had it, which I hope I remember. It's in my OneDrive. And then in my course files, and then in my module 4 folder, and then I'm going to click the file. The other one is Dr. Yoon's file. We'll play with that as well, maybe tomorrow. But you want to highlight it, and then all you do is open. Import. Okay, created error. I think I have some things I need to clear up in this file. Did you get an error message when you tried to download it? Did anyone try following the downloading steps, importing the file?
No, I'm not there yet.
You're not there yet? Okay.
No.
So let me do it again.
I missed that.
Okay.
So
We're
it's
going to go to
you're
file.
actually saving it in SPSS?
No, you're importing that Excel file into SPSS. We're not copying and pasting this time.
So I can just close this that I have open and
Yes.
reopen
Yep.
another one.
Yep, you can close it. So let me try because I really want this second
So you go to
worksheet.
file, import data, and then look for the file.
Yes, let me do the steps again for you. So if I go to my blank worksheet again, file, import data, and do SPSS. And I click on this. There's usually an options. The last time it asked me for options. So it keeps
Doc,
giving me an error. Yes.
I'm at the point where it's asking to log in with IBM ID or launch license wizard.
Launch license
Still-
wizard.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So open data. I'm trying to remember. I did this in the afternoon. Okay, here it is. This is the correct page. So I don't know why it wasn't working correctly before. but this part is really important. So you want to pay attention because I have two worksheets here. If I select the first worksheet, it has too much data and it's the data that's not cleaned up. So I want to toggle down on this drop down. Once you get this read Excel file, let me know, and then I'll go through the next steps. Is everyone here yet, or do I need to give you a few minutes to find your
Yes,
file?
I'm getting the error accessing the Excel file. The file may not open, maybe open by
It gave
another
an error
application.
for
We're
you?
gonna have to close the Excel one then.
Yeah, try closing it. Yeah, because the first time I didn't close it.
Okay.
And then you're going to File, and then Import Excel.
Once you have found the file and you
Do
just
you
click,
get to this type of screen?
it says it has read variable names from last or first row.
Yes, you're at the right screen. Yep. Don't
Alright,
do
so
anything yet. Don't do anything yet. I'm just
okay.
waiting for everyone else to catch up. Is
I'm
anyone else?
Fabian.
I'm there now.
Downloading.
Yours is downloading still? Okay.
It's not even downloading now.
It's not downloading for you. Did you
No.
select the right one, Windows or Mac, depending on what your laptop?
It's carrying me all over the place, Doc.
Okay. Let me go through that again with you. So you clicked on this for Windows. Do you have Windows or Mac?
Windows.
Windows. You clicked this and did something open up here in the left corner? Like some kind of folder with file downloading or something?
I'm coming, Doc. We can continue, Doc. I'll figure it out.
Okay. If you want, I can help you after class too.
Sure.
If tonight's too late, we can also do tomorrow before class if that works better for you.
Sure, Doc.
Mhm. So is everyone else, whoever has the software downloaded up to this stage?
Yes, Doc, at this point.
Okay, good. Does anyone else need more time to get to this screen? Okay, then I think I'll move on. So in your worksheet, make sure you click this drop down. And you don't want to select the first drop down, you want to select the quantitative, the second worksheet. So toggle down here and select the second option, quantitative. And then you'll see something uploaded. This is just like a preview to give you an idea of the data that's being imported. And then in your options, ignore hidden rows and columns. I'm going to unselect that. And leave the other two options the way they are. I just kept all of the other data as default.
How do you know what to select though, Doc? It depends on.
I haven't played with these others yet. These are new options. So each version, they add all these different unique things. Before it was just basic, you just import a whole worksheet and then you make changes to it. But now they allow you to read the variable names. So it's going to label these for you. I'm not too sure percentage of values that determine data type. I guess if you have 95% of data in a column, it would count the data or not. So if you have a lot of missing data, then it won't add it or something. And then ignore hidden rows and columns. I found that if I had this checked, then some of the columns that are not wide enough on my worksheet, it wasn't bringing in all of the data. And this was especially true in where you put a lot of comments in the text. So it was taking the first few words only, whatever was viewable on the worksheet. So I unchecked this and then it looked much better. So that's the reason I unchecked ignore hidden rows and columns. And then you're going to click OK. Oops, hope I didn't break it. Okay, here we go. So now do you see I don't have to it labeled it as a respondent ID, collector ID, start date, end date. And these are all default things that SurveyMonkey does. It doesn't have much meaning for my study. I'm really not going to use it, but I could probably use IP address if I wanted to as a unique identifier. If I want to make my study confidential, I can get rid of your first and last names and just use the IP address. I could just use email addresses, but sometimes email addresses also identify participants. So I think there is also a D number that I asked you. So rather than IP address, the D number would be most useful for me if I wanted to do further analysis. Did it paste for you, import? Something similar to this for you? With 12 cases. So SPSS calls these cases. We would call them 12 participants in this survey.
Mhm.
And then I have this email address. There's no data in it, so it's just taking up extra space. I'm just gonna right click it and clear it.
Doc, like for me, I'm seeing first name, last name. There's nothing in those fields. However, when I go over, there is another column that says, what is your first name? And it gives me data there. So I could delete that one that says first name, last name that has no data.
Yeah, you may have used the first worksheet rather than the second worksheet.
Oh.
That's why it might be doing that. Because if you notice, if I go into this Excel again, and now I can open it. I deleted some of the extra columns here, except the email one, it looks like. But here, the first worksheet had the first name, last name, custom data. So you may have used this worksheet rather than the quantitative.
Oh, I think that's what happened.
Yeah. But that's fine. You can still, for our purposes, explore the data and then delete any ones that are blank. This works similar to Excel, where you can drag and make your columns shorter. I think if you select several of them, it might allow you to make similar changes to a group of columns, the same size. So you can drag and drop similar to that you would do in Excel. So now if I go to the variable view, there's a lot more information. And this is probably what one of the other students was mentioning. You had like about 50. So now you see I imported the whole second worksheet. So it labeled everything for me. There are some rules about the name label. There cannot be any spaces or special characters. So that's why it blurbed all of these questions where I asked what type of device will you have access to without any kind of space. It got rid of all the spacing. So, but if you notice the label, it's fine. The label does have the information on it. Why are you taking this course? How many credits? The spacing and everything is fine in the label version. Some of the questions that are a little bit more complicated are the questions where I ask, select all that apply. So all of the different research analysis skills that you want to work on or improve, you selected more than one. So we'll have to figure out how to analyze this data or maybe clean up the data a little bit better. So we would look at this data and determine respondent ID. Because it was a number, they categorized it as a scale variable. But if you go into the data view, even though there's 0.00, this is not really a meaningful number. It's just similar to your ID number, right? And a lot of it is like almost the same. I think it's pretty much the same data. So it's not really meaningful. Collector ID is all the same. The reason you would have different collector ID is if I sent the survey to you by email versus maybe text message, or if I had you do a paper survey, then I might have 3 different collectors. If it required my study to see if there's any difference in the way I'm collecting the data, that was the only purpose I would use the collector ID for. But if I don't need it, I'm just gonna clear it and delete it. So these are the date columns. So in the variable view, it recognized that this was a date and it automatically formatted it as a date and it gave it the scale variable. If I want to change that, I can modify my data here. So name, of course, is nominal data. Some of the data is blank, city, town, state, province, and country. Let me see if I have any results there. If I don't have any results, it may have labeled it as blank. So I can go back in here and look for that field. Did I miss it? Okay. So I do have data here. Country, city, town, and state. There is data in it. You can also sort your data. So if I want to look at the city and town and I right click it, I can do sort ascending or descending. So now if you look here, we have 3 people from St. Catherine, right? 3 people are listed. But if you look at the data, the problem with SPS is I can't zoom in. So you probably will not be able to see the difference, but one person put an extra space and a period. The other people did not put a period. So whatever format you have, you want to look at your raw data because then it's going to count these. It's going to say there's 2 people who are from St. Catherine without a period and a space. And then there's 1 respondent from St. period Catherine. Okay. So the system and the software is not that smart. So you do have to review your data and look at it and make any corrections. So I'm going to go in here.
One of the things though that is when we're doing stuff like this, and especially if we're using like a form or a questionnaire or so on, and if it's electronic, then it makes sense to have options like those as a drop down that they select.
Yes, exactly. Yep. But I don't know. Normally, the United States, the state is often an option, but if we put every single city, the drop down would be huge. You know, so it wasn't ideal to put a drop down in the city and town.
But in our case, those St. Catharines and so on wouldn't be a city, it would be almost like equivalent to your state. That's a parish.
For you, it's a smaller number.
Yes, it will be just 14
Oh, okay, I
because
see.
those are parishes.
Yes, okay. 14 is definitely doable in a drop down. That is a good idea.
I don't know how it obtains in Belize, but that's what it is for us.
Yeah, I did not know about that, but next time I will find out what the 14 provinces you said, parishes?
Yes.
14 parishes, okay. And add it as a drop down, definitely. That's a good suggestion. Because then I don't have to go in here and correct the data, especially if I had like hundreds of students, then it would take more time to look at the data and clean it.
You hit a snag in a lock because you have some people that reside in the US and some who reside in like Belize.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then even in the US, do you see how somebody wrote USA and somebody spelled out United States?
Right.
So it's going to put one person in this USA and another person in United States, but it means the same thing. So I would have to decide which one I'm going to keep to clean up my data with. And then sometimes people might even misspell Jamaica if they left out the I or the A, then that would show up. And it would cause me to have not correct data. So that's
And we would
important to check
immediately
your
take away that person's passport.
And then even looking in here, somebody's D number is not completed. So maybe they didn't have a D number at that time. So if I had used the ID as a D number, I wouldn't have enough information on this one student. And then if I go into variable view, I can change this as well. I can modify this if I don't want it to look like all this jumbled up stuff. I don't need really what is. I would just call it, oops, sorry. I would just take this out and just say ID number or something, ID, or say DSU ID, DSU underscore ID. You can use underscore, but you can't use space. So if I try to use space, it's going to give me an error. Variable name contains an illegal character. That's why if I do the underscore, it should take that cell number. So this data appears for you, but usually when you run the analysis, it will label, the labels will appear in your analysis. And we'll talk about that in a little bit also. So I need to figure out what to do about these cases where I ask them all the type of devices and they have more than one selected, but some of the beginning demographic information we can review. Do you understand the difference now by looking at this, that this number 1 row in the variable view is all the details about my first column? Is that clear to everybody? Or no? Do I need to cover that? And for the sake of time, I really highly recommend that you look at the videos. I'll email this to you too if I don't get a chance to post it in Blackboard tonight. But review the introduction videos, and then you can look at some of the frequencies that we can run in SPSS. We might not get time to do this tonight, but tomorrow we will. Yes?
If you could just copy them over into the chat, I'll put them over in our WhatsApp group.
Okay, thank you. How do
All
you
right.
do that so quickly?
I have WhatsApp web.
Okay. You have it on your on your laptop?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Thank you. That does make it speedier. Let me look at, we talked about data cleaning. So this is just a frequency table I ran with the St. Catherine. You can see it categorized 2 students in St. Catherine without the period, and then with the period 1 student, so that it gave me a percentages of students in these 2 different cities. So that's why the data cleaning is really important. Let me make sure we covered everything that we needed to cover today. We covered the types of variable, numeric and string. Entering data, we didn't really do because I don't recommend that you enter data in SPSS. Even if you have to enter raw data, I would recommend doing it in Excel and then just importing it over so that it imports all of your column heading and does some of the work for you. And most of the time, you're going to have your data collected through some kind of instrument, survey, or tool. So importing the data is going to be the best option rather than even copying and pasting it.
Question, Doc. Regarding entering the data in SPSS or Excel, what is the major difference in terms of entering the data in both? Why is it? Because I figure you can make errors in Excel
Yes.
just the same. So what's the difference with the errors being made in SPSS?
It's not necessarily the difference in making the errors. The difference is most people are familiar with Excel and more comfortable with it. You know how to navigate the different sheets, different columns,
Understood.
just for ease purposes.
Okay.
Where in SPSS, you're still learning it. So I wouldn't want you to confuse the row versus the column type of thing in SPSS. So it might be easier to start with the Excel file. Because the other thing is that when SPSS changes, or if you decide that you don't want to use SPSS, you want to use some other statistics software, if you have it in Excel, you can still transfer it to any other tool. Is that clear?
Yes, totally. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we talked a little bit about the numeric versus string. Are we okay with understanding the difference between that? We're good on that? Okay. If we have questions, just bring them tomorrow and we'll clear it up a little more. You see that it's already 9:30. And we didn't do this yet, the two different types of file, SPSS, but let me see if I can briefly demonstrate that. So this isn't the one that we were working on, so I'm just gonna closing this will exit SPSS. I don't want to save this data set. Here's the data that I was looking at. Did I lose it? Maybe I closed the wrong one. I did. Open up this one. Okay. I did have another one saved on here. I'm going to go back to my data view. I believe you can do this in variable view too, but I'm going to go to data view right now. And then you can just become familiar with some of these tabs and what they mean. If I had some of my data in a label format, if I gave gender any kind of categories, or if I had categories on first year versus second year students, if I labeled them as 1, 0, then I would toggle between this one where it would show me the labels versus the numeric code that I would give this variable. So you can assign different numeric codes. And that the reason we do the numeric codes is you really can't do too much analysis on nominal and ordinal data, but there are some inferential statistics called chi-square that you can do to compare differences between groups. So that's the reason you would recode some of your data. But I don't think I have anything. I don't have anything that would demonstrate that to you, what the recode would look like. So you really won't see a difference if I toggle that field. So these are some other things that you can look at. If you don't like the grid lines, you can get rid of them. But I like the grid lines. It keeps everything in a nice row for me. These are some other ways that you can look at the data. If you need to split the file, Dr. Yoon gives an example of how to split the file. If you have a lot of data and you only want to select a certain group or only males or only females, you can do that here as well by selecting cases. You can compute or recode different variables. And the tab that you're most likely going to use very frequently is the Analyze tab. So if you follow along with me and go to Analyze tab, and we're just going to start off with descriptive statistics. And then we're going to choose the first option called frequencies. Are you all able to follow along? Or am I losing you? Are we good, Everett?
I'm here. For me, I'd have to go play with it tomorrow.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to the different tabs that are here. And I'm mentioning that the tab that you're going to use to do all of your analysis is going to be the Analyze tab. And I'm just going to briefly demonstrate the descriptive statistics by clicking on frequencies. And you'll see this dialog box. It might look intimidating, but it's not as intimidating as it looks. So you can choose to add just a few columns, one by one. If you want to add more than one, you can select the first one and then press Control and Shift on your keyboard. And then it's going to highlight the first to the last column that you added. If you want to do all of them, then you're going to select your first variable and then scroll down to the last variable you have. Press Control Shift at the same time on your keyboard, and it'll highlight everything for you. So I want to find out about all of this data. Now you'll see what this chart looks like when I do this. A lot of it is not going to be meaningful, but it's just to give you an idea. And the nice feature that I found that this newer version has is that you can create APA style tables. This is going to be really helpful in your dissertation. So I'm going to select that as well. So it's going to automatically format the tables to what APA would require.
So now,
yes.
So this version we downloaded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the license that we have in terms of the product key.
It's in Blackboard.
Is it time limited, or do we have it until
Well,
perpetuity.
it seems like the university upgrades to the new version each year.
Oh boy.
So you might want to download it. You might have to look back, and if you go back and log in, it'll give you an error that the license has expired. Then you will just need to go to Blackboard, or even if you don't have access to Blackboard, you can contact the help desk, the IT help desk, and they can
Because
give you the link.
I'm looking at this being very useful outside of research.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. If you do a lot of this analysis for your job, it is very useful. You can take a lot more advanced classes too.
That's
We're
90%.
just touching the surface.
All right.
Like, good point. So if I have any other ways formatting I want to do, but for now, I'm just going to leave all the defaults. I just wanted to show you what the APA style tables looks like, and I'm going to click OK. So now you'll notice that something weird happened, some whole new window called output. Yours might just say output 1. And then this is the other type of file. So if you toggle between this one, I just minimized this one, dragged it and minimized it, so you can see the difference. This is the data file, and this is called the .sav file. And this is going to be where all of your results, your analysis that you do, your tables and your charts that you want to look at will pop up here. So this is where all the magic happens. Did anyone get a chance to try out this SPSS statistics viewer, the output viewer? The important thing is that you have to save both types of files. So if you did analysis, and if you were just playing, today we're just playing, so you don't necessarily have to save this, but actually for your assignment 4.2, I do want you to save this. So if you click on it and do file save as, and this is the file that I want to see with your name uploaded in the assignment 4 column. Okay, so if you had trouble following along today, or if I lost anybody today, we'll go over this again at the beginning of the class too and do some more frequency tables. But here, like if you look at your name, I don't need, there's one, this is not meaningful data. It's not useful. I shouldn't have included this variable. So I can go back and delete the variables I don't need. It also gives you a nice little table here, so I can toggle between whichever one I'm interested in. Why are you taking this course? Most of you said that this is required. This is meaningful data, that 83% are taking the course because it's required. So what type of data is this? Why are you taking this course? Inferential or descriptive? Anyone?
Dr. Daniel,
Yes.
to create the table, you go to analyze and then what? Tables.
Descriptive statistics.
Oh,
and
this.
then
Okay,
frequencies.
frequencies. Okay.
I put everything in here. You can do a few if you like. And then I selected create APA style tables at the bottom. I didn't play with any of the other information yet. And then you have to click OK at the bottom. Once you click OK, you'll get this type of view. The statistics viewer will open up. So why are you taking this course? Is this descriptive or inferential statistics?
I would say descriptive.
Yeah, it's just you're just describing the percentage of students, the reason that they're taking the course. Definitely descriptive. And the fact that we went to analyze and descriptive statistics should be a giveaway that this is all the descriptive data. So some of the inferential statistics will be under compare mean, linear model, correlate, regression. These are going to be the inferential and non-parametric tests. We're not going to go into that this week. This week, we're going to focus mostly on the descriptives. So you can go ahead and run through and see what's meaningful and not meaningful data. So especially some of the answers where you filled in information. So here you've given a lot of information. So this one, each individual answer is just 1, 1, 1. So of course, this is not meaningful information. That's something that's better analyzed through qualitative analysis. And the nice thing with SPSS is I can take certain tables and I can export it also. So if I click on export, highlight whichever one I'm interested in, and I can export it as a Word document, PowerPoint slide, or an Excel too. I'm just going to do one as an example. I'm just going to.
Oh, yes.
Did I lose you there?
Oh, I pressed space bar, sorry. No doubt, but I'm kind of intrigued by this. And strange enough, it's not research in mind.
What's happening? You're falling asleep?
No, I'm saying
Okay.
I'm intrigued by this.
Oh, you're
And
intrigued by it? Okay. Then definitely go to the tutorials. There are lots of YouTube videos too. You can
Right.
explore those as well.
I definitely will.
Mhm. So I can find where I want to paste this Excel file and then click OK, and it'll paste it into an Excel file for me as well, if I only want to do that for a few questions. But this might be helpful. What type of research would you like to conduct for your research? 4 people said mixed methods. So if I ask this question again after taking this class, I wonder how many will say mixed methods now versus qualitative and quantitative. So these are some interesting findings that I can look at in the future. And I'm just going to go here and save this file, save as, and I'm going to find the file where I want to save it, and I want to save it into my summer course under module 4. And I'm just going to say Bina's sample, SPSS output file. I don't know if it's going to take this apostrophe, probably not. I'm just going to take that out and then click save. You can also encrypt your files with a password, so that helps too for preserving your data, confidentiality. That's something new that they added. I know in Excel always had that for many years. That seems to be new for SPSS. So now that I've done this, I'm just going to close out of here. And then I think, is that good enough for tonight? Is everyone with me? Does anyone need help?
So we need save as type, it's viewer file. No?
Say that again.
Save as type. We click viewer type.
Yes. It should, whatever the default is.
Okay.
Let me make sure. I'll go back in here and check.
Doc, I'm lost, but I'll come in early tomorrow for
Okay.
extra help.
Okay, no problem. Just let me know when you get there, email me or text me or something. Probably email is
Doc.
the best.
Okay, Doc.
Okay. Who is that that said that?
I would have copied everything, Doc.
Great,
So what
Dad.
it's doing, it's looking at every single thing, zip code.
Okay.
So in that case, Doc, what would you do? Delete those?
Yeah, go ahead and delete the extra rows that you don't want. You can't delete it in your, well, you can delete it in your output file, but it's not deleted from your main file. So you want to go to your main data view and delete whatever columns you don't need. You can either press delete or right click and delete them. Either one you can do. I think, let me see if you can select more than one. Yeah, you can select more than one. So if they're together and you need to delete them, you can do that as well. But if you want more practice, then go ahead and try importing it again by using the second worksheet.
Yes, Doc.
Okay. If anyone needs help, I can stay after, but the rest of the class is dismissed. And I will email this document to you so you have the notes that we worked on today, because we did some of the examples together.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed this.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, colleagues.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Good night.
Night, Doc. Good night,
Tomorrow.
please.
Good night.
Dr. Daniel, can I have a word?
Yes,
After everyone have left.
sure.
Okay.
Nicole had a question if this will work from a Google Sheet,
Yeah.
importing the Google Sheet. Let me look and see if I go into File, Import Data, Database, Excel, CSV Data, text. It's not showing it as an option on Google Sheet. Did you try copying your Google Sheet and pasting it then, Nicole?
No, ma'am.
Try that. See if you highlight the cells that you want to copy and then paste them.
I was just actually watching a YouTube video to figure it out.
Okay, good. Let us know then tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. All right, have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Rashima, are you good? Was it Rachel who wanted to see me?
Yes, it's me.
Okay. Rashima and Alicia, are you both good? Do you need any help? I'm gonna stop the recording.